up, everybody? Man, sad news. Rest in peace to D'Angelo. For those of you who don't know, he died this morning of what they say pancreatic cancer. And I'm about to play some of him on my Spotify. But for those of you who don't know, he passed away this morning. And I just want to give a quick, my condolences. And I want to talk also about his influence and his what made D'Angelo great as an artist. So I want to talk about that. Let me see here. Let me go and put this here. Hold on 1 second. He was at California Jazz Club? Oh, I was in high school. I missed that one. Anyway, sorry about that. So anyway, we're gonna talk about D'Angelo. D'Angelo was somebody who redefined what R&B is. He's the father of what we call neo soul. He's the father of it. And the reason he's the father of it was because when Brown Sugar dropped in 95, it changed the course of where they were trying to send R&B. D'Angelo was put on by Angie Stone, and we talked about Angie Stone earlier this year. It was crazy when Jaguar Wright called into my show when I interviewed her. We talked music, and the 2 days before Angie Stone died, Jaguar was giving Angie Stone the credit that she deserves for being the queen mother architect of the neo soul movement, and how D'Angelo dropped Brown Sugar. It was really Angie Stone, the A&R that put the pieces together. And the reason why this must be talked about is so important is because those of you who are on my Patreon, I have my Destruction of Black Music series about how music was intentionally destroyed by the industry and by the powers that be, whatever. Music was sabotaged. And music lost its soul in the 80s and really into the 90s. Post 85, you really started to see music lose its soul with all the electronic instruments. You still had great singers, but electronic instruments. And then by the time you get to the early 90s, they're bringing in Mary J. Blige, can't really sing. They're bringing in Usher. He's a teenager. He was rapping, marginal singer. You bring in then you started, as the 90s went on, you started to get the whole, the Irv Gotti sound that was basically nothing but Puffy and the Irv Gotti sound were basically remix artists, So soul was leaving music fast. Ashanti was a great writer, but wasn't soulful at all. Faith, great singer, but the way the production was done, that bad boy production on Faith's Beautiful Voice, a lot of soul was being taken away. Mid 90s, late 90s is when the whisper era came, when you even had great singers like Mariah Carey whispering. Aaliyah, great music, but the soul. Appreciate the super chat, Mogul Maze. Aaliyah, great singer, but production-wise, the soul was gone. It was all electronic, and they were really taking the soul out of the music. They basically abandoned live instruments, Outside of Mint Condition and Tony, you didn't really get live instruments during that time, Mint Condition and Tony were the only bands. Everything else was really, even, so many great careers in the 90s the music didn't get timeless because it was stuck in this plastic production. Well, what D'Angelo did was he brought the live sound back in '95. And the reason why we always give credit to Angie Stone is because that couldn't have been easy to do. The industry was going in one direction, and that was plastic production, samples, loops, but not live instruments, no innovation. And D'Angelo with Brown Sugar put a stop to that, at least temporarily. And he created a new sound that will be later on coined neo soul. I always say neo soul with in parentheses because neo soul is just where soul music would have been had it not been interrupted by electronic music. Okay, mainstream R&B should be called neo soul. Mainstream R&B of the '90s and the 2000s. That should be called neo R&B over there. D'Angelo tapped into the original strain of rhythm and blues. And on Brown Sugar, you heard a lot of his Prince influence. You heard a lot of the Rick James influence. But by the time he got to Voodoo, that's when you really start to really hear more of his voice. And Voodoo's my favorite album of his. And the second concert I ever went to in my life was in 2000. It was the Voodoo tour. It was Voodoo. It was at the Greek Theater. It was the original Lucy Pearl opening up for D'Angelo. Raphael Sadiq, Ali Shaheed, Muhammad, and Don Robinson. They were the opening act for D'Angelo for the Voodoo tour. That was the second concert I ever went to. And out of Voodoo, and then '96 comes, you get Maxwell's Urban Hang Suite. Remember before when I talked about movement, and when we talked about the theory of starting a movement, you need a leader and you need a first, second. You need a second and a third to validate what the leader's doing. And then from there, that's how movements are started. A leader and a first, second. And then you get a third, second. The first, second was Maxwell's Urban Hang Suite in '96. And so Maxwell's Urban Hang Suite validated the move that D'Angelo made to bring live music back to rhythm and blues. And then after Maxwell's Urban Hang Suite, you had in '97, you had Erykah Badu's On and On. D'Angelo set the foundation for Maxwell's Urban Hang Suite and Erykah Badu's On and On. And what that did was it opened the door for Lauryn Hill and the miseducation of Lauryn Hill. And the miseducation of Lauryn Hill exploded the sound. What the miseducation of Lauryn Hill proved was the appetite for live, real music with a real message and a real production was still there. My generation, I was in high school doing all this. All this is my high school years. The first songs I learned on the drums was When We Get By D'Angelo. Doom, 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 doom. When we get by. That's how I learned how to play a swing beat on the drums, was When We Get By D'Angelo on Brown Sugar. And I'm not reading y'all comments yet. I'll get to y'all comments. So if you're trying to talk to me, I'll get to your comments later on. But right now I'm just thinking about the importance of D'Angelo to music right now, you know? Oh, and also my history of R&B class, I'm putting that together. I told you I was gonna start this Sunday. I gotta wait till my new computer gets delivered. So it's gonna be the following Sunday. I can't work on my computer the way it is right now. It's shit fried. So I gotta wait till my new iMac gets here, and that'll be hopefully this time a week from today. So I'll do that the following Sunday. But D'Angelo's very much a part of my courses on music history because he's a titan. He's a cornerstone. He's a cornerstone. Ain't no one they always say the stone that the building refused will be the cornerstone. Y'all know that? I forgot the exact quote, but press number one if you know that quote. I'm the rejected stone. D'Angelo's sound was the rejected sound. The music industry was done with soulful music. So he was the rejected stone that became the cornerstone of a new music. And he was the cornerstone that set it up for Maxwell, Erykah Badu, and then eventually Lauryn Hill. Yeah, Brooke, that's from the Bible. Somebody said that's Bob Marley's. Now, that ain't Bob Marley's quote. That's a Bible quote. Now, Bob Marley did use that line in the song Ride, Natty, Ride. Natty gonna ride again. Yeah, he used that. That's a Bible quote. And so, appreciate the super chat, Unique Organics. So, what what D'Angelo's sound was the rejected stone. I didn't forget anybody, Luke Cage. Yeah, you follow me. Don't get ahead of me. I speak in timeline. Jill Scott's not around yet. We're in 1998. No one knows who Jill Scott is in 1998 outside of Philadelphia. Okay, just follow me. Just follow me. Okay, just follow me. I ain't forgot nobody. I'm giving you guys a timeline. You don't introduce people to a conversation until their time comes into the conversation. Who is Jill Scott dropped in '99? So let's not argue. Let's just follow me. So this is very important that this timeline be established. Appreciate that, Riri. So we got that, and it was a real what was going on at the time was the music industry wanting to go in one direction, and D'Angelo saying no, we're gonna, and Angie Stone saying no, we're gonna send it back in this direction. See, D'Angelo dropped in '95, and the reason why that year is important is because that's you said, listen, appreciate super chat, Carl Langley. You said like D'Angelo was over here like in '95. The music industry was going in a certain direction. They were going left. And what made D'Angelo work was 1995 was before Bill Clinton's Telecommunications Act was signed. What made Neo Soul a viable product from 96 to 2003 was when Brown Sugar dropped, radio stations were still locally owned. So you couldn't just have Clear Channel or iHeartRadio or Sinclair Media say, no, we're only going to play this nationwide. You still have regional sounds. You still have regional radio. And Brown Sugar was so good. It was so good. It had to be played. Yeah, we're being socially engineered into this new plastic sound. But without the Telecommunications Act being enforced and local radio still existing at that time, that's what allowed D'Angelo to flourish. Man, I got a post nasal drip right now. Hold on. So anyway, Urban Hang Sweet drops, On and On drops 97. 98, the Telecommunications Act has dropped, but you still have a lot of independent radio stations. Radio hadn't been taken over yet by 98, 99, 90, by 98. Even as Sinclair Media and Clear Channel started to buy up stations around the country, they hadn't changed their formats yet. So you still can get that kind of music through. And then in 99, Who is Jill Scott drops, at least nationwide. It was around, I think it dropped in 98, but it was a Philadelphia album. It got nationwide 99, 2000. And I remember when Who is Jill Scott got nationwide, because here in LA, that's when the Steve Harvey morning show. Steve Harvey played a huge role, at least here in LA, for getting Jill Scott on the radio. Because he was a radio host at 92.3 The Beat. And I remember I used to listen to it every morning on the way to school when I was in college. And I remember one day Steve Harvey had like a rant. He went on a whole rant. He was like, this is some good music. We haven't played a thong song. We haven't played this and that. And you got this woman dropping some real music, man. This shit sound like the 70s. Like this is, Steve Harvey was like, not that I want to play only 70s music, but this Who is Jill Scott? This is what those of us who like 70s music, this is what we're looking for. A real singer, real instruments. And so Jill Scott starts to blow up late 99, 2000 with Who is Jill Scott? She does the Chris Rock show. And she does Do You Remember? And then in 2000, Voodoo dropped and Erykah Badu's Mama's Gun. Voodoo, nigga. And then he dropped How Does It Feel? And between The Miseducation of Lauryn Hill and Untitled on Voodoo, that shows you the quote-unquote neo-soul sound, when done right, is also a mainstream sound. But you gotta remember one thing. There's an attempt to lower the vibration of black music and overall all music, but they always start with us. Then it goes to everyone else. So while we're getting Untitled, they trying to give us Ja Rule. We getting that bullshit on one end. And if you like that, that's cool. But Ja Rule really introduced that just bad singing and marginal rapping and it going to the top. You get to Drake through Ja Rule, okay? Make no mistake about it. You get to Drake by way of Ja Rule. I mean, you can like the music. I don't care. There's certain songs I like too from that era. But I talk turkey. It ain't about what I like. I'm not a sensitive. Oh, I like that song. No, I like plenty of songs that's bullshit. But just like sometimes I still like McDonald's. Goddamn it, I know McDonald's is bullshit. But every now and then I'm gonna get some of them goddamn fries. And I'm not gonna sit down and eat McDonald's fries and think that I'm eating some real shit. No, I'm eating some bullshit. It is what it is. So emotionally disconnect, niggas. So Ashanti music, that Irv Gotti sound, because what Irv Gotti was doing was he was taking things that was already familiar and flipping them. And just like Puffy did, but Irv's way of doing it wasn't as smooth as Puffy's. But so then you got that. Now you got a whole flow of neo soul 2000. You got Music Soul Child dropping. You got Raheem Devine. You got Tweet. You got Jaguar Wright. You got Blue Cantrell. You got. It just became a huge run of real R&B that was going on at the same time that they're force feeding us this plastic sound. Then that so at the same time we're getting on the mainstream side we're getting Usher. That's when trap and B came with yeah. You're getting Usher with marginal singing, no soul, very to little soul in the music production. Ashanti, very little soul in the music production. Ja Rule, very little soul in the music production. Um, baby. You know, just every little thing I do, you. You got those are nursery rhymes. Now they're good songs. I'm not dissing. They're good songs, but that's a nursery rhyme. Feel it in the body, the body who make you change your ways and think it with your crew. That's a nursery rhyme. Ba 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 ba. Banana, banana, fana, fo fana, fa fing, fi, fo fana, banana. You feel it in your body, body who make you change your ways. It's a nursery rhyme. Did you just hear it? That's not my conjecture. That's literally banana, fana, fo fana, fee, fi, fo fana, banana. You feel it in your body, somebody who. That's the same rhythm. It was nursery rhyme music that was going to the top of rhythm and blues. So on one side, like I said, on one side, you got the genuine Usher, you got the thong song, you got B2K or Marion, a real plastic. You got even Mario, great voice, no soul, and the soul comes from the production. I'm not necessarily blaming the singer themselves. I'm talking about the production. So music is getting very nursery rhyme-ish in the 2000s, but it's D'Angelo that's holding the fight for real music. It's Jill Scott. It's Erykah Badu. It's Raheem Devon, Music Soul Child. And what they did when these real vanguards of real music come back, what the industry did was other them into neo soul. The fact of the matter is, they were the ones that were doing music the way our ancestors taught us. Yeah, Dave Hollister. Yeah, India Irie. Dave Hollister, India Irie. Even Tony's last album gets overlooked in '98 because that was part of this whole movement too. Tony's last album, House of Music, that went back into the soul. Like Tony had started getting into that plastic sound too. But when they came up with House of Music, that was straight up brought the soul back. Bilal, Anthony Hamilton. Donnell Jones, I wouldn't put him in the near. Donnell Jones was doing more straight ahead R&B that the industry was pushing them this industry into. Now Donnell Jones is a great artist. I'm not dissing him, but 1996 Donnell Jones is sort of straight ahead. Yeah, you had Eric Roberson, Amir LaRue, Coffee Brown, After the Party, Lucy Pearl, Kim, girl. Yeah, then Raphael Sadiq had a solo album after A House of Music. I'm coming home to you, where something see through. So yeah, Flowetry. Yep. All of that sound, that explosion of really, really good music that they call Neo Soul, D'Angelo and Angie Stone. She was the queen mother, and he was the father. That's who we got to thank and have reverence for. And both are gone this year in 2025. Nine of Hearts here. Nines are ends of an era. A nine always represents the end of an era. So it doesn't go past me that they both died in 2025. 2025 adds up to a nine. Nine is an emotional ending. But remember this, like Funkadelic says in Good Thoughts, Bad Thoughts, every ending is a new beginning. Life is an endless unfoldment. But by 2004, the industry, the Telecommunication Act was 8 years in. You have these conglomerates that now own all of the radio. So that explosion of sound that we got in the late 90s into the early 2000s, one by one, it was like, damn, where's Tweet's new album? You know, that lane would have been great for Solange, you know? But by the time Solange came up, that lane had closed by the time Solange came up. But she still did her thing. But that era is what saved music, real music. That era is how we get to Robert Glasper. That era is how we get to Anderson .Paak. That Anderson is how we get to J-Mo. That era is how Anthony, like the vanguards of that era, Anthony Hamilton, D'Angelo, Erykah Badu, Jill Scott, their music kept going. But the artists that were just below them as far as popularity, we stopped hearing their music. We stopped hearing Raheem DeVaughn. We stopped hearing Jaguar Wright. The industry had really stifled everybody under that. And you know what they did? They said, okay, Adele, we got a new sound. We got a sound. And out of nowhere, late in the 2010s, we get Adele. You know, and who was a white twist on Jill Scott. She's Jill Scott with no seasoning. Down on the other side. I hate that fucking song. Down on the other side. Man, if you don't get that mayonnaise and B out of here. Yeah, Guapole was part of that sound. It was an explosion of great artists between 97 and 2003. And then they all got stifled by the industry. Avery Sunshine, Deion Ferris. But D'Angelo, yeah, you have Vivian Green. You had it was just an explosion of great artists. Frank McComb, and what happened was, and you got to subscribe to my Patreon. And if you're already subscribed to my Patreon, go back to my Destruction of Black Music series. What they did was, during that time, not only was the Telecommunications Act, it was open season on small independent labels. It was independent labels that was putting out all this good music. So in the early 2000s, Universal, Warner, all the big boys started buying up these small labels. And what they did was, when they bought up those small labels, they made another move. The R&B budgets, Shantae Moore, how did I miss her? The R&B budgets got pushed over into hip hop. And that's how hip hop won in the 2000s. Hip hop never took out R&B. And any of you dumb young motherfuckers that want to argue with me, Sit your little stupid ass down. I know what the fuck I'm talking about because I was studying this shit 25 years ago when it happened. This isn't me talking about in retrospect. No, I was a fucking professional drummer 25 years ago when all this shit was going on. And I've always been an avid reader of the business section, and you would see, oh, this company's buying that company. That company's buying this company. And then you read the paper a year later, oh yeah, all those artists on this particular record label, yeah, they're all out of here. And the record labels, as Def Jam, and then these record labels started to buy up all these places that were doing the neo soul sound, those budgets went to hip hop. R&B never aged out, stupid. If R&B aged out, Taylor Swift wouldn't have sold 4 million albums last week. R&B never aged out. R&B just goes the best budgets for R&B go to white artists. If R&B aged out, Adele wouldn't be as famous as she was. If R&B aged out, The Weeknd wouldn't be as popular as he is. If R&B aged out, Bruno Mars wouldn't have sold as many albums as he did. R&B is still alive and well. It's just not promoted through black artists anymore. Okay? Young D. Taylor Swift is R&B. All of it's R&B. Okay? Now, they're white, so it doesn't have any soul to it. Still R&B. Pink R&B. That's all R&B. It's just flavorless. The same way potato salad with raisins is still potato salad. Now, niggas ain't gonna like no potato salad with raisins, but it's still potato salad. Pop is R&B, stupid. God damn, you niggas are dumb. There's always gonna be some people that's gonna be like, somebody's pop. Pop doesn't have a distinct sound. Pop is whatever black music that white people like. There's no such thing as pop. Pop is just a way for them to take our sound and other it for themselves so we could be like, oh, that's pop. No, stupid, that's your black ass music that a white person did. They just did your music without flavor. Still your fucking music. Jesus. I wish you niggas would shut the fuck up and listen when I'm talking and stop trying to correct me. I've been studying this shit for a long goddamn time. I'm trying to pass information, and some of you niggas trying to argue. Rhythm and blues is the base form of all popular music in America. And all rhythm and blues means is rhythm, meaning fast dance music, blues, slow love music. And how rhythm and blues came about was rhythm on the front side of the album, blues on the back side of it. That's all R&B is. 16-bar format. AABA writing style. Right, K-pop is R&B. J-pop is the whole BTS movement, R&B. It's all R&B. Rock and roll was a derivative of R&B. We created R&B first, and then a faster version of R&B became known as rock and roll. Rock and roll is just faster R&B. Black people like our music at a certain tempo, as far as the soulful ones amongst us. Then there are other black people who like it faster, and those ones created rock and roll. And between rock and roll and R&B, whatever sound that white people liked was known as pop. The same way country western is just the blues. You dig? Hey, Rocky. You dig? You dig? Don't just take a label that the people who didn't create the sound gave to you, nigga. I'm here to help you guys think a little bit deeper than that. That's all I want to do. It's deeper than a label that the people who did not create any of these sounds give it. $16 AABA writing format. Taylor Swift took it and just removed all the soul from it. That's all R&B. So R&B never died. R&B just got, by the industry, it got ripped away from us and got given to white folks and relabeled pop. Relabeled, it got given to Asians, K-pop and J-pop. But it's still R&B. Yeah, R&B got water. So you got to realize this about R&B. You got to realize this about R&B. In order for R&B to be done right, it requires a good budget. Hell no, R. Kelly's not neo soul. R. Kelly's mainstream, but he's one of the mainstream ones that did it right back in the 90s. The neo soul people were considered non-mainstream. That's why they got put into neo soul. That was their way. That was the industry's way of saying, okay, yeah, nah, these niggas ain't mainstream. They're neo soul. That was a white label, neo soul. So make sure that, yeah, you're right. Tina Marie is the only white artist that has soul. But back to what we're talking about. Hold on 1 second. Hold on 1 second, y'all. Give me like 30 seconds. All right, I'm back. Rocky, why you gonna come sit in my seat? You know I'm sitting here, boy. Move over. Move over. Come here. Rocky over here. Rocky like, I want to sit close. You good, Rocky? Rocky want to cuddle up. It's raining right now. Rocky like, it's raining, man. Let's cuddle up. You good, Rocky? Say what's up to the people, Rocky. Say what's up. You good, baby boy? Rocky want to kick it. But, all right, come on, Rocky. So, let's go back to what they did. Let's go back to R&B. This is what you guys got to realize. You got to realize rhythm and blues is a very expensive sound, okay? You can't just throw in order for R&B to be done right, it requires a lot of TLC, a lot of tender love and care. You can't, a hip hop song, you could sample the loop And that sample is going to have all the soul you need because the sample was done, all of the soul put into that song was done when it was originally recorded. So with hip hop, you could take a sampled loop and then the rapper flow over top of it and you'll be fine. You can't do that with R&B, although that's what's been done with R&B the last 25, 30 years. Although that's what's been done, and that's what they were doing with R&B. You heard Usher dropped "Yeah." That was the first trap and B song. That was with Lil Jon. Even though that song was hot, it really takes away the soul and the process of what makes R&B R&B. Now you're lowering the standard when you do that. And this isn't the shit on sampling because the neo soul sound sampled just as much as hip hop did. The song "Send It On" by D'Angelo, that was a Cool in the Gang song. You know, Erica Badu, the bridge on "Times of Wasting," that's Johnny Hammond Smith chorus. Jill Scott, all of them sampled for the most part the Mizell brothers out of L.A., Roy Ayers, Donald Byrd. That was where your neo soul samples came from. The difference is the neo soul era replayed a lot of that stuff live, and they added other elements around the sample. They didn't just take a sample and loop it. They added other elements around it. That's what made it work. In order for R&B to be at its best, you need live horns, you need live strings, you need a live band, and you need a singer that can deliver a song, the emotions of a song. Usher can give you song, but could Usher really emote like Joe? Hell no. Could Usher emote like Gerald Levert? Hell no. Could Usher emote like Freddie Jackson? Hell no. Hell, could Usher emote like Kim? No. But he had a decent voice. Usher had a decent voice, good beats, and he could dance real good. And then same with Beyonce. Can Beyonce emote like Shaka Khan? No. Can Beyonce emote like Anita Baker? Hell no. Can she deliver with power like Aretha Franklin? No. So what they did was they took away the core ingredients from black R&B. The horns, the strings, the live band, the background singers. Man, do you know how important background singers are to music? Like, look up the Andantes and all the background songs they did for Motown. Honeycomb, The Waters, and Sissy Houston. And background singers are so important. And throughout the 90s and the 2000s, really in the 2000s, in the 90s, all of these ingredients were taken away from black R&B. They took away the groups, the quartets. A lot of your great singers come from quartet singing. Sam Cooke, Curtis Mayfield, Bobby Womack, The Temptations. They all came from corporate quartets. You know, Beyonce came from Destiny's Child. You know, you came from groups before. You know, Smokey Robinson came from the Miracles. A lot of your great soul singers started out as group singers. Yeah, Teddy Pendergrass came from Harold Melvin and the Blue Notes. Lionel Richie came from the Commodores. Right. So lead singers either came from a group or they came from background singing. Luther Vandross, background singer. And then they were background singers and they got their chance at the top. And some hit success, some didn't. There was a flow. Same thing with music producers. You couldn't just come in like nowadays. You got niggas just come in making beats. No disrespect to the beat makers at all, but I just think that sometimes beat makers put too much dip on their chip. Not all, but some. Too many, especially on the hip hop side. No, producers first started out as musicians. You had to learn the acoustic version of your instrument first. Quincy Jones started out as a trumpet player. Okay? The progress to be a producer was first you're a musician, studio or band or live. And then once you become a musician, then you become band leader. You become the arranger. Quincy Jones went from trumpet player to Count Basie's arranger. And Rocky just dropped a bomb on me. God damn, Rocky. This little nigga. How did dog so goddamn cute? Rocky, you just farted, homie. God damn. Hold on. You little motherfucker. Oh, where was I at, chat room? Where was I at? This little nigga just left me with something crucial. Where was I at? God damn. Whew. I know Rocky usually he didn't have his morning shit yet. That's why because it's been raining like crazy. LA, we're in a fucking monsoon. It's been raining since like 12 last night. We've had like 12 straight hours of rain. So when it's done raining, I'm gonna take him out to shit. I know he got a shit, but Rocky don't fuck with the rain. And Rocky be like, shit, I'll hold this motherfucker. I'll hold this shit until it dries the fuck up. All right. Now back to what we're talking about. Yeah, Max 7 fucked up my thought process. That shit was a bomb. But I know he got a shit. The boy, he would have shit 3 hours ago, but it's raining way too hard for little man to be out there. But back to the process for singers. Let's just recap. So let me start it back over, so I can have a succinct thought. The process for singers generally usually starts at church. Usually starts at church. You either sing, play drum, play instrument. You start at church, and then you go with a group. You either sing with a group, or you sing background for a while. And through singing for a group, you then get the assignment to sing lead. That was generally the process. Marvin Gaye started out as a studio musician. He was actually a drummer for Motown when he started. He didn't even start as a singer. He started as a drummer, Marvin Gaye. And you can go down the list. But they all started in church. 95% of the time. The good ones. I ain't talking about these whack ones of the last 25 years. I'm talking about the good ones. And music producers started out first. You learned an instrument or two or three. And then you go to arranger. Quincy Jones was Count Basie's arranger. Count Basie was the producer. He put everything together. He's the one that put that. And Quincy Jones was the one that got pen and paper and wrote out the charts. So songs like "Fly Me to the Moon," "Fly me to the moon, let me play amongst the stars." The arranger, a composer, is the person that writes that out and arranges where the music is put. And then the producer is the one that makes the final decision on where everything goes. That's why, like Dr. Dre, people talk about, man, they be like, Dr. Dre don't make no beats. No, stupid, he don't have to no more. Dr. Dre, as far as hip hop goes, followed the assignment. He first learned how to play an instrument, then he learned how to put those machines together and put together beats. And then by the time he got to the 90s, he graduated to executive producer where it's like, no, no, you put together the shit, you arrange it, and I'll make it into a song. Producers had to go from instrument to writing the rigid arrangement to being the one, then you go to producer. And I remember asking my father-in-law about that. I asked him a question a long time ago. I said, how did you go from composer arranger at Motown to executive producer? He said, really, the process is you got to have balls. You got to know that your idea is the way the song should go. And he said Motown was just straight up competition. So for a long time, Mr. Carmichael wrote the arrangements. When you listen to I'll Be There, when you listen to the notes that they're singing, Mr. James Carmichael wrote those notes. He wrote the music and the melodies, and songs like I Want to Be Where You Are, that's him playing the harpsichord. Anytime you hear the harpsichord being played, that's him playing the harpsichord. You and I must make a pact. We must bring salvation back. That's James Carmichael. He didn't produce that song, but that's him playing the harpsichord. And he wrote the arrangement for Michael to sing. And Hal Davis was the executive producer that put it all together. And then James Carmichael went from arranger to producing for the Jackson 5. Michael Jackson's first album, second album, Ben and all that stuff. Then they gave him a couple songs, the Christmas album, Santa Claus is Coming to Town. He went ahead and rewrote and rearranged that whole goddamn song. And then from there, they're like, okay, you're a producer. We're going to give you an assignment. And then he went and got an assignment and got the Commodores. And then when he got the Commodores was the first group that he was completely in charge of. Now, from here, he now hired some of the stuff that he arranged himself. Other stuff, he started now hiring out arrangers, hiring out the musicians. The producer's job is to hire the musicians and hire the arrangers. And what they come up with, fit those pieces together. Because most of you niggas think that a song just comes together. Sometimes a song, like James Carmichael said when he did All Night Long by Lionel Richie, that song took months. He said it took 4 or 5 months for that song to come together. It took like 4 or 5 months for him to put together All Night Long. All you hear is all night long. But he had to go through over 100 musicians to get the right sound. So that used to be the process to become a producer. You went from musician to arranger to producer. You went from background singer, you went from church to background singer to lead singer. There was a process. And that's why music was so good for so long. They done got rid of background singers. So where do you learn how to sing if songs don't use background singers anymore? They don't use arrangers like that anymore. You got people now can open up a computer and just put together a beat. But the reason why these beats, like everybody put together a beat ain't bad. Like when Robert Glasper does some of his stuff electronically, it's great because Robert Glasper is a musician. Terrace Martin, DJ Quick. When you have actual musicians putting together beats, Dilla was a musician. He was a drummer first. That's why Dilla's production is on a whole nother level. Because Dilla was a drummer. Played the drums in church. Again, not to say all beat makers are bad. No, the beat makers that followed the process are pretty damn good. They put together generally pretty good damn beats. But you have a class of beat makers now that never went through the process. You gotta know what it's like to be sitting on that bandstand and playing a song. And that experience feeds into what you allow the final outcome of that song to be. Like I hear beat makers all the time. Man, I put together some drums. Man, the drums, I done lifted this snare and I lifted that hi-hat, and I hear it, it'd be like, it's cool, but I mean, in my head, I'm thinking, damn, where are the ghost notes? Where are the ghost notes between the 2 and the 4? A drummer will have some ghost notes. Where are the inflections on it? Why is a hi-hat straight ahead? Tick, 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 tick. A drummer will never play tick, 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 tick. A drummer play tick, 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 or tick, 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 or ticks, tick, tick, ticks. There are these little musical eargasms, ear candies that a real drummer will play. But you don't know that. You just sample some drums. And so this the meat and potatoes of what really gives the song soul, the ghost notes between, the inflections, the accents, you don't get because you never sat the fuck up on stage and played music before. So going back to D'Angelo really put in, he really changed the environment and opened the environment up for real music. Remember, hip hop never replaced R&B. R&B was killed through the budgets. It was killed through record label consolidations. And the artists that learned music the right way, your Shantae Moores, your Bilals, your they were all pushed to the side. They were all pushed to the side. And we were given the game instead. That weird ass nigga. We were given Lil Wayne instead. Another weirdo. And not saying they bad. They both make good music that I like, some of it. But their success came at the expense of R&B. Because as they bought these R&B labels, they didn't say, okay, let's have an R&B budget and a hip hop budget. They said, let's take this R&B budget and give it to hip hop. And all these wonderful, great R&B artists are just going to have to suffer in silence. Christopher Ellis, appreciate the super chat. There's a cause and effect. Hip hop's, you gotta realize this. Look, when hip hop went to the top in the 2000s, in the late 90s, the shit was already 20 years old. Hip hop was old when it got to the top. When R&B came in, it shot to the top right away in the 40s. And it stayed there. He said Wayne for millennials definitely one of the goats. Well, I'm a millennial, and Wayne ain't shit if you ask me. He made good music, but way overrated. But if you like him, that's cool. Wayne didn't have enough soul for me. I like soulful music. I like music with soul. Wayne didn't have no soul. Outkast had soul. I like soul in my music. And they remove the soul. I gotta have love in my music and I gotta have soul. Wayne was pushed on my generation. But again, Wayne Cash Money was pushed initially to get Master P out the way. Master P made all that money independently, and I didn't like No Limit. I didn't like No Limit that much either. I like Mystical, and I like Snoop's album The Last Meal. Outside of that, I didn't really like No Limit. But No Limit was black and independent, and they had to get No Limit the fuck up out of here. So the industry put money behind Bird, man, and Cash Money, and Cash Money artists got pushed to the top to get Master P out the way. And Slim Lemon said they tried to turn us into junkies via Lil Wayne, right? We see NWA and music of the '90s made fun of the drug addict. Lil Wayne started with Eminem. Eminem made you a drug addict, and then Lil Wayne really pushed you being a drug addict. '90s music was like, okay, you can sell some drugs, but don't take it. Lil Wayne said, no, 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 take the drugs, take the drugs. You know, again, you can like them all you want. I ain't saying don't like them, but that era of Lil Wayne, because Lil Wayne opened us up for Drake, and Drake ain't said not a motherfucking thing. That Drake doesn't have 15 years of platform, and ain't said one thing to make your life better. And if you look, remember this, y'all. D'Angelo, Erykah Badu, Lauryn Hill, Jill Scott, the quote unquote Bilal neo soul sound, that was othered. The mainstream was Ashanti, Usher, Omarion. Those are the ones that had all the radio play, all of the acknowledgement. They're on all the award shows. They really tried to X out that neo soul sound. But look, 25 years later, the music that still lives from the early 2000s is what? The neo soul music, quote unquote. The music that's still popular, people still talk about the miseducation of Lauryn Hill. Because real music never dies. And D'Angelo reintroduced real music into rhythm and blues at a time that the industry was removing real music from rhythm and blues. So there is no miseducation of Lauryn Hill without Brown Sugar, without Urban Haynes Sweet, without On and On. Yeah, one of the biggest songs on Miseducation of Lauryn Hill was Nothing Even Matters, D'Angelo and Lauryn Hill. And that was a classic. That was a throwback. That was a soulful throwback at a time we needed it. Yeah, he and Angie did have a son, Brian. Yeah, man, my heart goes out to their son. Lost a mother and a father in the same year. That's my mom and my dad's still here. I could imagine. You see my mom and my daddy? My dad, my mom, my sister, my brother, and me. I still got my mom and my dad. Matter of fact, I was on the phone with my parents yesterday. I was on the phone with my parents yesterday, and their son lost both of them in 1 year. Man. And of on top of the soul within the music, D'Angelo, them, they had great lyrics. You know what I mean? They had lyrics of life. You know? Is that the real Melba Moore in the chat? That's another Melba Moore, man. I don't know if that's real Melba Moore or not, but she's another one that in the 80s, all those powerful singers from the 80s, all those women, I did on my Patreon live, on my Patreon, I did a dedication to the power singers of the 80s. Melba Moore, Val Young, uh, Vesta. These women got fucked over by the music industry because the music industry was going to more of this whole plastic sound. Stephanie Mills. It's just I remember when the '90s hit. I remember like where's the next? That's the real Mel Moore. I remember in the like 90, like 94, 95, thinking like, okay, when's the next Mel Moore album? When is the next? Just so many. I'm drawing some blanks right now because I'm so thinking about D'Angelo. But I remember thinking, okay, when the 90s, we just have all those power singers of the 80s got screwed over, male and female. Freddie Jackson. It's like when the 90s came, they a lower quality of singer got pushed into the mainstream. And by the 2000s, yeah, Angela Winbush, Evelyn Champagne King, right? Yeah, they changed the sound up. Angela Bofield, right? You know that I want to be with you. Alexander O'Neal, right? There's nothing about Anderson .Paak that is a copy of anything. Anderson .Paak is a complete original. Stop it. Anderson .Paak makes original music using very few samples. He can rap and play the drums. Anderson .Paak comes up the real. He came up the traditional way. And that's why Anderson .Paak is so good. He started out playing the drums in church, and then he graduated to doing his, and then studio musician, and he graduated to doing his own music and came up with a whole new sound. You crazy than a motherfucker if you say Anderson. Now, if you don't like Anderson .Paak, that's fine. Everybody got their preferences, but don't lie and say that he's not an original. Anderson .Paak is a complete original. And there's no such thing as agree to disagree. I don't agree to disagree with shit. Now, if you don't like them, you don't like them. That's cool, you know. Everybody like who they like, but there is no agreeing to disagree on originality. Anderson .Paak is a complete original. Complete original. He has a unique voice singing wise and a unique voice rapping wise. And he's a real musician. And he can rap and play the drums at the same time. That's new. Yeah, certain people that sang and play the drums, but he sings, raps, and plays drums at the same time. That's what we want out of our musicians. You can't call him a derivative and can't say what he derived from. What songs? What album? What album was he sounding like somebody else? Name it. Name the album, name the songs. And more than just one song. I'll wait. Who's Anderson .Paak rapping like and playing the drums like and singing like on Oxnard, on Ventura? I'll wait. Again, you don't like somebody, you don't like them. That's cool. I'll never tell somebody to like somebody. Taste is personal, but you can't lie and say, "Well, they're not original." Yes, the fuck he is original. What the fuck are you talking about? He's an original you may not like. That's fine. He said, "Give me time. Let me do some research." Yeah, you don't have nothing. You just pulled that shit out your ass. Stick to you don't like Anderson .Paak, and that's fine. But don't lie and say he's not original. That's not gonna happen. He right, John. He said he a copy, but let me go research. If something's a copy, I can be like, okay, that's what he copied. Like, let me give you an example. If I say D'Angelo started out sounding like Prince, I would give songs like Untitled as an example. And there's a song that D'Angelo did called Send It On. Send It On was a sample of Kool in the Game. I'll Stay was a song that he did with Roy Hargrove. That was a sample, that was a remake of Funkadelic's album Funkadelic. That's right, Chris Vell. It's another dumb opinion with no evidence. And then we go to Anderson .Paak's Knowledge, what he does with Knowledge. That project, No Worries, man, that's a whole different sound. He has the straight ahead Anderson .Paak with the Free Nationals as his band, and then he got the work that he does with Knowledge, the No Worries project. Yeah, people want to come in. Somebody said, no, you dumb if you need time. I called you dumb for a reason. And it's not personal, nobody. It's not personal. Here's why I called you dumb. You're stupid because you made a statement without being prepared to defend the statement. That's what a dumb person does. Okay? A smart person that's just a smart person that's just ignorant of what it is, knows to just be like, you know what? I may feel a certain way, but I can't back what I'm going to say, so I'm going to shut my mouth. An intelligent person knows not to talk when they can't back what they have to say, especially while listening to somebody who's obviously intelligent. An intelligent person be like, I might feel that way, but man, nah, this nigga obviously knows what he's talking about. So if I make this statement, I better be prepared to defend it. That's what an intelligent person does. A dumb person says, I'm going to make a statement. And then when asked to defend it, they'll be like, that's the definition of stupid. No disrespect, not personal. And if somebody's not an original, you don't have to. That's nothing that makes you stupid. Everything doesn't require research. When I say Drake's not an original, I don't have to do research. I say he tries to sound like Fonte. He took Soulja Boy's way of marketing. He takes a lot of music words and lines that other people did and remixes them. And that's why he's not an original. When I say Jay-Z is not an original, I'm fully prepared to defend that. When I say Jay-Z is not an original, I have a lot of songs I can name, but I'll start with 99 Problems with a Bitch Ain't One. That's Ice-T. I'll say, I add a motherfucker so you ignorant niggas can hear me. That's Lauryn Hill. I say that Baby Girl, You Treat Me Like Animal. That's Eddie Murphy in Raw. And the most profound things that Jay-Z has said, he directly quoted from somebody else. And I'm prepared to give you a list of quotes. I'm prepared to say he was around in 91. Big Daddy Kane was trying to get Jay-Z signed in 1990, in 1991, in 1992. Yeah, excuse me, miss, that's Luther Vandross. But Jay-Z was around in 1991, 92. Big Daddy Kane couldn't get the nigga signed. Then he started dressing like Kane. His name, Jay-Z, a flip of his homeboy Jaz-O. I mean, there's absolutely nothing original about him. Nothing. So when I say Jay-Z's not an original, I got a mountain of evidence to back what I have to say. I'm not going to say it out of hate. There's nothing original about Jay-Z, and here's a book of reasons why. And if you ain't got a book of reasons to explain, you shouldn't have to research. If you make a statement, you should make that statement already having your research done. You've already done the homework. I'm making this statement because I can prove it now, not tomorrow, now. That's intelligence. So back to what we're talking about with D'Angelo. D'Angelo is a complete. Was he inspired? He's an original, but was he inspired? Yes. D'Angelo was obviously inspired by Prince. But guess what? If you go back and listen to early Prince, you know what you hear? James Brown vocally and Muddy Waters on the guitar. And a lot of Jimi Hendrix. A lot of Hendrix. You hear a lot of Hendrix through Prince. But when you listen to Hendrix, you know what you hear through Hendrix? You hear Muddy Waters, Howlin' Wolf, Albert King. And if you know Albert King's guitar play, if you know Muddy Waters' guitar play, you hear it in Jimi Hendrix. Jimi Hendrix just played what Muddy played with a lot of amp. And early Prince sounded a lot like Jimmy and a lot like James Brown. Everybody starts off with inspiration from those, and you're usually going to find that on the first album or two. And then by the time Prince got to Purple Rain, he was no longer sounding like James Brown and Jimi Hendrix. By the time he got there, he was originally completely Prince. And so you heard a lot of Prince inspiration on Brown Sugar. But you also heard a lot of D'Angelo originality. But by the time you got to Voodoo, that's completely D'Angelo. Remember, there's 3 steps to creation: imitation, synthesization, I don't know how to say it, then innovation. First you imitate. Kobe Bryant came in looking a lot like Michael Jordan, tongue out and all that shit. And then you synthesize. You take what you learned and you add your original element to it. And that's what you saw that first Laker championship with Kobe. And then you come to innovation. By 2001, 2002, Kobe was on to something completely different. He had passed his imitation of Jordan and started innovating his own game. D'Angelo went past sounding like Prince to by the time you get to Voodoo and Black Messiah, he's onto his own innovation. Everybody imitates. You don't become an original without imitating. The problem is, where we are right now, people don't get to the second step, and that's synthesization. Synthesization. I just can't pronounce that right. I sound like, yeah, I sound like Carcino fucking up pronunciation of words. Yeah, Larry Graham was a Prince influence, yeah. You imitate first, and then you synthesize. You add your sauce to what you're imitating. In the third step, you innovate, and that's when you create new. Creation is the third step, and that's where we're geniuses, black people. But the industry basically stops people at step one, imitation. They don't even let them get to step two. Yeah, he does sound like Prince on How Does It Feel, but guess who Prince was sounded like when he did that? James Brown. Ah! That's James Brown. Now, a lot of y'all will say Prince because a lot of us, my generation, millennials, we grew up on Prince. So if you're a millennial, you'll stop D'Angelo's sound at Prince. No, Prince got that from James Brown. Okay? The same way my generation and Gen X, they'll stop basketball innovation at Jordan. Well, Jordan got the two dribble pull up from Jerry West. Goes before that. Yeah, Bismarck Prince was a mini beige James Brown from how he danced. Prince was doing James Brown when he did that. Go back and listen to Please, Please, Please. Please, 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 please don't go. Honey, please don't go. Oh, yeah. I love you so. Please, please don't. Please, please, please. Yeah, the innovators are hard to control. Moderators, anybody coming in with corny jokes, I'm in time that person out for 86K seconds. Anybody coming in saying some dumb shit with corny jokes, 86,000 seconds they ask. 86 of them. Yeah, the same way Prince did the James Brown splits on stage, right? Michael Jackson, James Brown. Come on, give it to me. All right. Just James Brown. And you know where James Brown got a lot of his shit from, according to James Brown? The church. James Brown's dancing, he said he was dancing like the preacher. All that shit come from church. James Brown got it from the church. But James Brown also got it from Jackie Wilson. James Brown got it from the Nicholas brothers. James Brown got it from Cab Calloway. James Brown got his scream from who? Little Richard. Little Richard was hitting that screen before James Brown. Little Richard also got it from the church. Yeah, James Brown music was catching the Holy Ghost. That's all it was. Doing the James Brown dance. Preachers did that. So yeah, a lot of people like to just run to Prince. No, if you go to Prince, you gotta go to James Brown. And then from James Brown, you gotta go to Little Richard, you gotta go to the Black Church. I already said Jackie Wilson. That's more in alignment with the dance. You know Michael Jackson's pose where he posed with his hands in the air? You know where Michael Jackson got that pose from? Sammy Davis Jr. He's another one you got to point at. Sammy Davis Jr. James Brown got a lot from Sammy Davis Jr. Sammy Davis Jr. You got to realize, Sammy Davis Jr. was a child star. Sammy Davis Jr. was 5 years old when he was first on camera. It's a lineage of greatness. But within the lineage of greatness, there are people who create new wrinkles in time. And James Brown created a new wrinkle in time. Although he was trying to sound like Little Richard at first, although he was dancing like Jackie Wilson at first, although he was imitating his preacher at first, he synthesized all of that. And then when he came out with Papa's Got a Brand New Bag, that's where he created a wrinkle in time with a new sound called funk. James Brown took what he learned in church and put a new beat to it. James Brown created a wrinkle in time. Stevie Wonder created a wrinkle in time. A lot of your Prince is Stevie Wonder also. Let's not get that twisted. A lot of your Prince is Stevie Wonder also. Ray Charles. But Ray Charles created a new wrinkle in time when he brought the gospel into rhythm and blues. Prince created a new wrinkle in time when he brought the electronic sound in to funk, black music, funk and rock. And D'Angelo is on that same pantheon of greats. I don't look at our greats in a pyramid. I look at them at levels, as the highest levels. And the people I put on the highest levels are the people who took what happened and created a new wrinkle in time that reverberated. And sometimes that wrinkle in time reverberated much larger than that particular artist themselves. But D'Angelo is on the level of Miles Davis, of Prince, of Stevie Wonder, Michael Jackson, Quincy Jones. These are people who took what was there and James Brown and reworked it and created something that was different than what the mainstream accepted. And they made the mainstream accept it. Sly Stone. D'Angelo's up there was rest in peace, Sly Stone, who died this past June. Sly Stone was another one. Took what was there and reworked it into something new. We get these people every now and again. And D'Angelo is one of those rare ones. And D'Angelo must be memorialized and remembered in that way. Yeah, Brian Barnes. Sugar Daddy does sound a lot like Fats Domino, right? Fats Domino's the forefather of a lot of this shit that we call R&B. Fats Domino. Yeah. So is Louis Jordan. D'Angelo is a very much so a part of that lineage of greatness. And let's tell his story properly. We will do a Patreon music breakdown of D'Angelo when I get my new computer. I'm not gonna be on my office computer for at least another week and a half. Whenever my computer's supposed to be delivered, when I get my new computer delivered, we'll get back to doing some shows on the studio. So everybody on Patreon, what I'm gonna do is I'll be uploading some newer stuff, some pre-recorded stuff, but I can't go live because my computer ain't working right. So Patreon for the next week and a half, y'all gonna be getting pre-recorded stuff. Like this morning, I dropped the history of jazz on there, a jazz breakdown. But when I get my new computer, we're gonna get back to the live content on Patreon. So in the meantime, if you're on Patreon, catch up because I see the view count. You niggas on Patreon are not taking advantage of what's there. There's a whole music university there, yo. I need to go back and watch a lot of the archives over the next week and a half. And when I get my new computer, we'll get back to going live on Patreon. My nigga Rocky's still chilling. You good, Rocky? Rocky like, man, you good, baby boy? You good, baby boy? You good, baby boy? Baby boy like, yeah, I'm chilling, man. It's raining outside. I gotta take a shit. But he know Rocky know if he walk around, that shit gonna come out. And Rocky does not shit or piss in his house. So as soon as this rain is done, me and Rocky going for a walk so he could drop that deuce. Cause them farts he done cut earlier let me know that deuce is up in there to be dropped. That shit stink. Cutest dog ever, but that motherfucker dropped some grown man bombs. God damn. Yeah. What's up, Brandy? I got the middle school and high school homie up in here, Brandy Kane. Y'all say what's up. Brandy, I know I'm gonna see you at Taste of Soul this weekend. I ain't even got a car, Brandy. All I gotta do is walk down Crenshaw. I'm gonna see Brandy. All I gotta do is walk through Crenshaw. I'm gonna see Brandy. My brother, the only thing with Taste of Soul, my brother used to live on Degnan, and I would just park in his driveway. But that nigga done moved to fucking. That nigga, my brother done sold his house in the Mert Park. So I don't get the cool parking like that no more. Y'all say what's up to Brandy. Oh yeah, the night market. I think you sent me the flyer. I forgot about the night market. I'm gonna come through the night market, Brandy. And everybody go out to the Mert Park. We got Taste of Soul. This Taste of Soul's coming to Crenshaw District. This coming Saturday. After the Taste of Soul, they're having a night market with vendors on 43rd and Degnan. That's where Brandy's gonna be, and I'm gonna see if I can make it over there to support the night market. So if you're in LA, hit that night market up and go. I know Brandy gonna have some dope shit over there. So make sure y'all hit that up. Yeah, Lori, it would be good if they could bring back music in the schools, but they probably not. We gotta teach it. Cool things we can teach it online now through Zoom. That's why homeschooling is so important. The music industry ain't going The music industry ain't gonna. I mean, the education system ain't gonna do it. We gotta do it ourselves, and that's what the church is for. The church teaches music better than anybody else. Y'all see, Bernie just posted it. Liberation Plaza, where Total Experience used to be. Okay. Yeah. So I support anything Bernie got going on, man. So that's the homie for real. All right, but I'm about to get up out of here. I'm about to get up out of here, y'all. Just rest in peace to the great D'Angelo. And know that when you're listening to K-pop, J-pop, Taylor Swift, The Weeknd, they all borrowing bits and pieces of D'Angelo. Adele, they're all taking a little bit of D'Angelo. All right. Rest in peace to an archetype, a cornerstone. The cornerstone that the building refused. The building of that they were trying to build this new R&B sound. They refused on D'Angelo, so he became the cornerstone of a better building. All right, I'll holler at y'all.